The station was never truly quiet. Even in the deepest hours of the cycle when most of the crew had retreated to their quarters, there was always the hum of machines, the faint vibrations running through the metal walls, the sigh of air being pushed through vents. For him, those sounds had become a kind of lullaby. They were reminders that life, fragile as it was, clung stubbornly to this artificial shell drifting in the void. He returned from another long shift in the coolant chambers. His hands smelled faintly of grease despite washing, and his shoulders ached from hours of tightening stubborn bolts with half-broken tools. Humans were not the finest engineers in the galaxy, not compared to the Zirans or the Vael, but they were stubborn enough to keep things working long after others gave up. That was why the captain always sent him, even when others were more qualified on paper. He wouldn't quit. He would fight with a broken valve until it worked again. He walked down the narrow hallway to his quarters, boots echoing softly on the grated floor. He expected the same routine. Open the door, throw himself onto the bunk, let exhaustion carry him away. The door hissed open, and he stepped inside. And froze. Someone was there. Not just anyone. A Ziran. She had already stepped inside before him, though he had no idea how. She stood tall, elegant in a way that was unearthly. Her skin was pale and translucent, almost like glass, with faint rivers of light running beneath the surface. They pulsed gently, alive, shifting like veins of fire. Her eyes glowed with a calm silver that seemed to see straight through him. Without a word, she placed a small satchel on the floor by the wall. Then, with movements both deliberate and gentle, she crossed the room, sat down on his narrow bed, folded her long hands in her lap, and looked at him. That was it. No sound. No explanation. He stood in the doorway, heart pounding, mouth dry. He knew what he was looking at, and it was not supposed to happen. Zirans did not enter human quarters. Zirans did not even speak to humans outside of official duty. Their treaties were fragile, their lines drawn sharp. To cross them was to invite disaster. And yet here she was, sitting calmly on his bed, as though she belonged. The silence stretched. He could hear his own pulse in his ears. Finally, he cleared his throat, though his voice came out rough. Hello? The Ziran woman didn't answer. Her gaze stayed fixed on him. Not threatening, not cold, just steady. Almost peaceful. He took a cautious step forward. The door closed behind him with a hiss, sealing them in. The air felt thicker somehow, heavier. He swallowed hard, trying again. Are you lost? He asked. A slow movement. She shook her head once. No, that was all. He stared at her, waiting for something more. A command, a warning, an explanation, but nothing came. She simply sat, her faint glow casting soft patterns of light against the metal wall, her posture calm, composed, unshakable. Something inside him shifted. The fear didn't vanish, but it dulled. Her presence didn't feel like a threat. It felt, strangely, like an anchor, something grounding him in the chaos of space. He realized his breathing had slowed without him noticing. Still, his thoughts ran wild. If anyone found her here, there would be questions. Accusations. Maybe worse. He wasn't supposed to be alone with her, not like this. But he also couldn't find the strength to order her out. Something in her stillness held him. He sat slowly on the chair across from the bed, tools still at his side, eyes never leaving hers. Minutes passed. Neither spoke. And in that silence something unfamiliar grew, an understanding thin but real. He didn't know why she was here, or what she wanted. But in that moment, sitting across from a being his people were never meant to truly know, he felt something stronger than fear. He felt the beginning of a story. The next day the station seemed quieter than usual. The hum of machines, the flicker of lights, the gentle vibration underfoot. It all felt softer somehow, like the universe had leaned closer to listen. He woke early, though sleep had been shallow. His mind kept returning to her, the Zaran who had entered without a word and simply sat on his bed. He tried to reason it away. Perhaps she was lost, perhaps it was some mistake, some unusual behavior caused by stress or protocol errors. But deep down he knew it was not that simple. He tried to focus on his work, fixing the coolant regulators in the lower decks. Every time he adjusted a valve, tightened a bolt, or recalibrated a sensor, his thoughts drifted back to her. The memory of her calm silver eyes stayed with him, glowing faintly in his mind like the soft light of distant stars. There was something in her stillness that made the chaos of the station fade away. Hours later, after his shift, he returned to his quarters, half expecting the usual emptiness. But there she was again. She had entered silently, just as before, placing her satchel on the floor with care. She crossed the room and sat on his bed, hands folded, gaze fixed forward. The glow in her skin was slightly brighter this time, pulsing gently like a heartbeat in slow motion. He paused at the doorway, unsure if he should speak, unsure if this was allowed, unsure if he even had the right to exist in the same space as her. I don't understand, he said finally, his voice low. Why are you here? No answer came. She didn't even glance at him. She simply sat, still and patient, as though time itself had slowed around her. Hours seemed to stretch in silence. He tried small talk at first, awkward questions about the station, the systems, even the stars outside. Each time she ignored him. Not rudely, not with anger, but with a calm so complete, it made him wonder if words were meaningless to her. Began to observe her. The way her shoulders relaxed, the gentle movement of her chest, the subtle shifts in the glow beneath her skin. Humans were loud. They always needed to speak, to move, to act. Zarans, however, were a different kind of quiet. Her quietness was not emptiness. It was depth. There was a story in her silence, a history he could not yet read. Eventually, his curiosity overcame his fear. He sat on the edge of the bed, careful not to touch her, careful not to break the invisible boundary. You could leave, he said softly. No one would stop you. Her eyes flicked toward him this time. There was something almost like a shadow in them, an emotion he could not name. Then she looked back forward, not speaking. He realized then that she was testing him, not in hostility, not in aggression, but in trust. She was waiting to see if he would panic, if he would turn away, if he would fear her, and he didn't. I won't call security, he said quietly. I don't want you to leave. Not if you don't want to. She shifted slightly, just a whisper of motion, and in that small movement, he saw the faintest hint of relief. They sat together for hours like that. Sometimes he would glance at her and see her glowing softly. Sometimes he would stare at the walls, pretending not to watch. Neither of them spoke, and yet a conversation grew in that silence deeper than words could reach. It was understanding, it was connection. The station's lights dimmed as the cycle moved on. The hum of the machinery was steady, comforting. Somewhere outside, the stars passed silently, witness to the quiet bridge forming between two very different beings. Finally, he spoke again, almost a whisper. I don't know why you're here, but I'm glad. This time she looked at him. Just a brief glance, but it held something fragile, almost human. Acknowledgement. She shifted closer on the bed, her glow brightening slightly, pulsing in a rhythm that made his heart beat faster. For the first time since she entered, he felt something change, not in her, but in himself. Fear, caution, doubt. They all began to fade. In their place, there was wonder, curiosity, and an unspoken promise that maybe, just maybe, this encounter could mean something. And so, the silence stretched on, but it was no longer empty. It was full of possibility, full of a quiet, growing bond that neither of them yet understood but both felt in every pulse, every breath. every heartbeat that echoed in that tiny cabin in the middle of space. The following days passed strangely. He went about his duties in the station as usual, repairing circuits, checking coolant levels, and monitoring systems. But everywhere he looked, he felt her presence, though she was often not there. The memory of her calm figure sitting on his bed, the soft pulse of her glowing skin, and the unspoken understanding between them lingered like a quiet storm inside him. He wondered what she thought during those hours of silence. Did she see him as strange, weak, or even foolish? Or was it something else? Something she simply couldn't name. Then it happened. He was walking down the corridor toward the control deck when a sharp-clipped voice called his name over the station's comms. It was Lieutenant Harvin, the officer in charge of crew oversight. Report to the captain immediately. Personal conduct question. Bring all details. His stomach dropped. What? He muttered under his breath. The words felt like ice. Personal conduct? Details? He knew deep down what this meant. His time alone with the Zeran had not gone unnoticed. The captain's office was cold, sterile, and unwelcoming. The chair he was offered seemed to mock him as he sat, trying to steady his trembling hands. Across from him, the captain's face was a mixture of irritation and disappointment, sharp eyes narrowing. "Do you understand the gravity of what you are accused of?" the captain asked. His voice was clipped, controlled, professional, but it carried a weight that pressed down on him. I don't," he began, but the captain cut him off. Zerans are not to interact with humans in personal quarters. They are to be respected, yes, but boundaries exist. Your actions may have caused a serious diplomatic breach. You put yourself and this station at risk. He swallowed hard. I didn't mean any harm. She came on her own. The captain leaned back, shaking his head. Intent is irrelevant. Security saw her enter your quarters. Protocols exist for a reason. This could have sparked a major incident if it had been discovered outside this station. Do you understand? Yes, sir, he whispered, though his chest felt tight, suffocating. That night he returned to his quarters, feeling the walls close in around him. He expected emptiness. But when he opened the door, she was there. Again, silently. Her satchel on the floor. Her hands folded. The same calm glow. He stepped inside, closing the door carefully. His heart raced. They warned me. They said I can't see you anymore. They said it's dangerous. Her silver eyes flicked toward him, not with anger, but with something softer, almost sad. She tilted her head slightly, a gesture so human that it made his chest ache. I don't care about danger, he said, voice trembling. I don't want you to leave. She remained silent, but her glow pulsed faster, brighter. Her chest moved slightly, an almost imperceptible sign that she was breathing, reacting, alive in a way he hadn't seen before. The rules, he continued, feeling desperate. They don't matter to me. Not if it means losing this. Not if it means losing you. For the first time, she moved. Slowly, cautiously, she shifted closer on the bed. Her hand hovered in the air, unsure, almost trembling. He reached out, heart pounding, and their fingers touched, delicate, gentle, electric. It was a connection neither of them had expected, yet it felt inevitable. But the moment was fragile. Outside, the station's hum carried the weight of authority, of protocol, of danger. Somewhere beyond these walls, eyes were watching, rules were waiting, and consequences were coming. He realized then the truth he had been avoiding. Caring for her was more than just a quiet bond. It was defiance. It was risk. It was the first crack in a world that had always felt rigid, predictable, safe. And now nothing was safe. Yet even in the fear, even in the danger, he could not pull away. Something inside him had shifted. He felt alive, not because of the machines or the stars, but because of her. Because of the quiet, steady presence that refused to leave. That night the room was quiet, But it was a different quiet than before. It was tense. It was fragile. It was alive. And both of them knew, without words, that the real challenge had just begun. The silence between them had grown heavy, but it was not uncomfortable anymore. It had shape, weight, meaning. He could feel it in the way she breathed, in the soft pulsing of her glow, in the careful stillness that seemed to fill the room. He had come to expect her presence, and strangely, he had begun to rely on it. It was a strange thing, to feel anchored by someone who spoke almost nothing, whose species was known for distance and cold perfection. Finally, after a long moment, she moved. Slowly, almost hesitantly, she turned to him. Her glowing eyes reflected a distant light, as if carrying the weight of worlds he could not imagine. "You do not fear me," she said, her voice soft, quiet, but cutting through the hum of the station like sunlight through ice. He blinked, startled. I don't. I mean, why would I?" Her gaze dropped. For a moment he thought she might look away forever, hiding behind her quiet walls. But then she began to speak. Not much, but enough. Enough to pull back the curtain of silence she had carried so carefully. "We, Zirans, live differently than humans," she began, her words careful, deliberate, slow. "We compete. We do not trust weakness. To show need, to seek comfort, it is shame. It is danger." He listened, leaning forward, sensing the gravity in every syllable. She had never needed to explain before. Her silence had been enough, but now she was opening herself to him. "I have never chosen this," she continued, eyes fixed on the thin line of the station's floor. "I envy your kind. Humans speak even when voices tremble. Humans reach even when they bleed. You hold each other when you fall. You do not hide your hearts. We do." She paused. Her chest pulsed brighter for a moment, a subtle ripple of emotion he had never seen in a Ziran before. "I wanted to see if it was real." He swallowed hard, unsure how to respond. Her words were simple, but heavy. They carried an honesty that pierced him more deeply than fear or danger ever had. "And is it?" he asked softly. She looked at him then directly, and for the first time her face seemed almost human, vulnerable, fragile. "It is," she whispered. "I did not know it could exist. I did not know it could feel like warmth, like home." He wanted to reach out, to say something, anything that could bridge the worlds between them. But words felt too small. Instead, he simply moved. Closer, keeping the space between them just enough to respect her boundaries, yet close enough to offer comfort. "You are brave," he said finally, almost a whisper. "Braver than anyone I know. Not because you're strong, but because you trust me, even now." She tilted her head slightly, a gesture so subtle it almost went unnoticed. Her glow pulsed slower, more evenly, as if his words had reached some hidden part of her. "Trust isn't rare," she admitted. "Even among my people, to give it to you, it isn't frightening, but necessary." He felt a shiver run down his spine. Here, in this small, cramped cabin on a lonely station, an alien being, her species, was sharing something profoundly intimate. And he realized with a sudden clarity that this moment was not just about her. It was about him too. It was about humanity's strength, its courage, its unyielding need to reach out even when the universe told them not to. He reached out carefully, brushing a fingertip against hers. The warmth that radiated from that small touch was more powerful than anything he had felt in months, more powerful than the hum of the engines, more powerful than the endless cold of space outside. I think you belong somewhere you've never been," he said softly. "Somewhere where someone finally sees you. Truly." Her glow shifted again, brighter now, almost like a pulse of hope. I think maybe I have, she whispered, because of you. The room was quiet after that, but it was a different quiet than before. It was soft, tender, filled with fragile trust and a shared understanding neither had needed words to create. And in that quiet he realized something extraordinary, that even in a galaxy filled with rules, dangers, and cold calculations, the simple act of opening one's heart could be revolutionary. For the first time since she had entered without a word, he felt that the real journey was just beginning, and that it was one they would take together, step by careful step in the silence that now spoke volumes. The station had never felt so tense. Every corner seemed sharper, every echo louder, every hum of the machinery a reminder that the world outside the door demanded order, rules, and obedience. He could feel it pressing down on him, the unspoken warning that what he and she shared could not exist. Yet he could not bring himself to let it go. The next morning, before his shift began, a message came through the station comms. The captain's voice, cold and clipped, carried clearly into his quarters. You are to report immediately. Personal conduct and security breach. Failure to comply will result in disciplinary action. His heart sank. It was no longer a quiet warning. It was an ultimatum. He knew what this meant. They had noticed her visits. They had noticed her presence. They would not allow it, not because she was dangerous, she was gentle, quiet, but because rules were rules, and rules had to be obeyed. He looked at her sitting on the bed, her glow dimmed slightly, almost as if she could sense the danger outside, the walls. Her hands rested in her lap, still and calm, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of fear. They're going to stop us, he whispered, his voice barely audible. They said I can't see you anymore. She remained silent, but her glow pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat quickened by worry. They don't understand, he continued, stepping closer. They don't understand what you are, what this is. Her eyes met his. In that glance he saw a mixture of defiance, sadness, and something he could not name. She seemed to be saying, I know, and I choose this anyway. By mid-cycle he was summoned to the captain's office. The walk there felt longer than usual, as if the corridors themselves were stretching, delaying the inevitable. When he arrived, the captain's expression was unreadable, but the tension in the air was unmistakable. Lieutenant Harvin and two security officers flanked the door, silent and stern. Do you understand the consequences of your actions? The captain asked, voice tight. A Zuran has entered your private quarters multiple times. This is not permitted. You have endangered yourself, this station, and human-Zuran relations. I didn't do anything wrong, he said, trying to hold his ground. She chose to come here. I didn't ask. I didn't force anything. Intent is irrelevant, the captain snapped, cutting him off. Rules exist for protection. You have violated them. If this continues, you will face reassignment or worse. He nodded, swallowing hard. But inside, he felt a fire ignite, sharp and unyielding. He couldn't give up. Not on her. Not on what they had. Humanity, he realized, had always been defined by defiance in the face of impossible odds. This was no different. That night, he returned to his quarters expecting emptiness. But she was there, waiting as always, silent and patient. Her glow was soft, almost pleading, as if she had already sensed what had happened. I can't, he began, but words faltered. They might stop us, they might make me leave, they could force you to leave too. She moved closer, brushing her hand lightly against his. Then, we fight, she said simply, her voice quiet but firm. I will not go. Not if you do not want me to. He felt a lump in his throat. She had chosen him, despite rules, despite danger, despite the unyielding force of authority that pressed down from every corner of the station. In that moment, the fear did not vanish, but it became irrelevant. Courage, he realized, was not the absence of fear. It was acting despite it. And he acted. He reached out, taking her hand in both of his. Their fingers entwined, the warmth of Human skin against alien glow, a symbol of defiance, trust, and hope. Outside, the station waited, full of rules, protocols, and consequences. But inside, in the quiet room that had become their sanctuary, nothing else mattered. He whispered, "We will face them. Together." She nodded, her glow brightening with renewed strength. In that small, fragile gesture, they found unity, a promise that even in a world of rules and danger, the bond they had created would not be broken without a fight. The station might try to separate them, might try to enforce rules, might try to bend them to fear and protocol. But here, in this room, on this narrow bed, something human and something alien had joined. A quiet rebellion, a fragile but unyielding spark that refused to be extinguished. And for the first time, he understood what it truly meant to stand for something greater than oneself. The station corridors felt colder than ever. Each step he took echoed louder than usual, bouncing off the metal walls, carrying the weight of warning and authority. He could feel the tension in every corner, in every hum of machinery. Orders had been clear. Human Ziran contact in personal quarters was forbidden. Consequences would follow if broken again. Yet despite all of that, he felt a pull stronger than fear, stronger than rules. He needed her. She was waiting in his quarters, calm as ever, her glow soft but steady, like a beacon in the darkness. Her presence gave him strength and at the same time reminded him of the risk. Every heartbeat carried both fear and resolve. "They warned me," he whispered, closing the door behind him. "They said, I can't see you anymore. They said, it's dangerous." Her silver eyes met his, unflinching. For a moment he thought he saw a flicker of defiance hidden beneath the soft glow. She moved slightly closer, the air between them charged with a fragile intensity. "They cannot decide for me," she said. Her voice was quiet, yet it carried a firmness that made his chest ache. "I choose you." He swallowed hard. His mind was racing, torn between logic and instinct, between fear of consequences and the undeniable truth of what he felt. The station could try to separate them, the rules could try to force them apart, but none of that mattered in this moment. What mattered was here, now, and the decision they would make together. I don't know if I can," he admitted, his voice trembling. "If they find out, they could make me leave, make you leave. I don't want that. I can't lose you." She reached out, placing her hand over his. The warmth of his fingers, against her cool, glowing skin, sent a shiver through him. "Then we face it," she said simply. "Together. Whatever they do, we are together." For a long time they sat there, hands intertwined, the hum of the station surrounding them, the quiet between them no longer empty but full of understanding and courage. He realized something he hadn't before. Trust, loyalty, and courage were not just human traits, they were universal. And in that room, across the gap between species, he felt the full power of that truth. The next morning, word came that the captain would make a formal inspection of his quarters. Panic threatened to rise inside him, but when he looked at her, all fear seemed to dissolve. Her calm, steady presence reminded him that he had made a choice, and that choice was stronger than any rule. When the captain arrived, accompanied by Lieutenant Harvin and security officers, he stood tall. He did not flinch, did not shrink away. She remained seated on the bed, her glowing eyes meeting his in silent solidarity. "Do you understand the risk of continuing this behavior?" the captain asked, voice sharp and cold. "I do," he said quietly, "and I accept it. I will not abandon her. I will not leave." The room was tense, every breath measured, every sound amplified. He could feel the weight of authority pressing down, ready to crush him for his defiance. Yet in that moment he realized he was not afraid. Not truly. Fear had been replaced by something stronger. Conviction. She moved then, standing slowly, deliberately, and placed her hand lightly on his shoulder. Her glow pulsed brighter, radiating calm strength. "We Face it together, she repeated, her voice carrying a gentle power that resonated in the metal walls. The captain paused, uncertain. He had not expected such unity, such courage, such quiet defiance from a human, nor from a Ziran. Rules were rules, but he sensed that here, in this small cabin, something had shifted, something unmeasurable and profound. He stepped back, eyes narrowing, weighing options, but finally, he said nothing more. The decision, unspoken but understood, lingered in the air. Some bonds were stronger than rules, stronger than fear, stronger than authority. That night, when the captain had left and the station returned to its hum, he looked at her and smiled, a mixture of relief and awe. "We did it," he whispered. "We chose each other." She tilted her head, faintly glowing, and for the first time, he felt the depth of what they had accomplished. It was more than defiance. It was more than courage. It was proof that connection, understanding and love, no matter the form, could defy the strictest of worlds. And in that quiet room, on that narrow bed, they knew something extraordinary had begun. Together, they had chosen. Together, they would face whatever came next. And nothing, not rules, not fear, not the endless cold of space, could take that from them. The station had returned to its usual hum, but nothing felt the same. Every corner, every corridor, every flicker of the lights carried the memory of what had happened. Rules had been bent, authority challenged, and two very different beings had found a connection stronger than protocol, stronger than fear, stronger than the cold metal walls of the station. He walked back to his quarters, heart pounding with anticipation and relief. There she was waiting, as always, calm and radiant. The soft glow of her skin lit the small room in gentle waves. She looked at him, and in her eyes, he saw trust, courage, and something that felt like hope. "We made it," he said softly, stepping closer. "We chose each other, and no one can take that away." Her glow pulsed in response, brighter now, almost like a heartbeat in sync with his own. She rose from the bed and reached for his hand. Their fingers intertwined. Warmth, meeting light, humanity meeting the alien. It was more than touch. It was affirmation, a quiet rebellion, and a promise rolled into one. Outside, the station continued its relentless routine. But inside, something extraordinary had begun. Humanity, he realized, was not just stubborn. It was brave, relentless, capable of hope even in the darkest places. And that same courage had ignited something in her, a Ziran who had never known trust, never known comfort, and never known the simple act of being seen. They sat together, on the narrow bed, hands still entwined. The universe outside was vast, cold, and indifferent. Yet here, in this small room, warmth and light had taken root. They did not need words. They did not need permission. Their presence, side by side, spoke louder than any protocol or order ever could. He thought of all the humans who had come before, all those who had dared to defy expectations, to reach beyond themselves. They had fought wars, built cities, crossed oceans, and survived disasters unimaginable. And yet, he realized, the most human thing he could do now was simply to reach out, to trust, and to choose connection over fear. She turned to him, her glow softening, almost shyly. "I never thought I could feel this," she whispered. "Trust, safety, warmth. You changed that." He smiled, brushing a hand lightly over hers. "No, we changed that. Humanity. It's not perfect, but it reaches, it holds, it protects, and somehow it makes even those of us who never trusted feel safe." Her eyes glimmered with a light that seemed almost sacred. "Then I will stay with you, no matter what they say, no matter the rules. I choose humanity through you." He felt his chest tighten. There was awe, gratitude, and love all mingled together. This was more than survival, more than defiance. This was proof. Proof that humanity, in its relentless courage and hope, could touch even the most unreachable, even the most unyielding. The station's lights flickered as if acknowledging the moment. The hum of machines softened. The corridors seemed to hold their breath. In that small room, Human and Ziran had bridged a gap no one thought possible. They had broken barriers without violence, without demand, simply by existing, by choosing to connect. He leaned back, holding her hand tightly, feeling the pulse of light and warmth against his skin. "We are more than rules," he said, softly. "We are proof. Proof that life, human life, is unstoppable. Proof that even in the vast cold of space, hope, and courage, and love can survive." Her glow brightened, pulsing with each word he spoke. "Then, let us survive together," she said, voice steady, firm, radiant. And in that quiet room, against the backdrop of endless stars, they did. Humanity and alien, Human and Ziran, heart and light, side by side, unbroken, unafraid. Somewhere outside, the universe spun, vast and cold. But inside, a small room on a lonely station shone with warmth, with courage, with proof that even the smallest spark of connection could ignite a flame that no rules, no fear, and no authority could ever extinguish. And in that flame they found the universe, not as it demanded but as it could be, brave, unyielding, and undeniably human.